What's going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with a War Eagle spinnerbait again. I cannot get enough of these War Eagle spinnerbaits, and I just got this all white. It's a double white willow blade. I loved it, and so I've been thinking about colors to put on this. I thought about matching the orange eye, but I ended up going with some lavender and white. So it's just a standard white bucktail lavender. This is actually a really good lavender tail, but the hair is super thin, which is fine. So white and lavender. And then I've had this white flatwing saddle. In my opinion, the best hackle, I don't know if you'd call this hackle, that you can get. This was $30 at Spawn Fly Fish. Now the only tricky thing is, at least most of the websites I found, they only sell these in like 4 to 6 different colors, but this purple matched that lavender tail almost perfectly. And so these two are going to be the tail, just two flatwing saddles. It's half the price, and you get, even just looking at this purple one, you get a really good amount of feathers on these things. You probably can't see it very well, and some of them are really good length. So spending $75 on a bronze dry fly saddle for something that you're going to use like I do, or even those half saddles from Hairline, can be like $35. This is a full saddle for $30. So flatwings are really, really good. A little bit of flash, but I really like how this bait turned out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it. Drop a comment below. Let's tie this thing up. So the tricky thing about War Eagle spinnerbaits, I love the spinnerbaits, but the hook is always super short. You don't get a lot of tying room off of this lead, and even the lead is really thick. They take a lot of that weight, the size from the head. The head stays small, and I think that's why they add all this lead in the back. So I'm really reluctant to add some bucktail down here under my flatwing feathers, because I don't want anything to slip, and I really don't have a ton of room. I could fit it for sure, but I just think I'm not too worried about this bait being super bulky, because I've got a ton of hair that I'm going to add up here. And so really I'm just going to save this back hook room for just feathers. I'm going to add some flash in here. I blended some light purple and silver holographic flashabou, just standard holographic flashabou. And then I've got two little bumps here, or there's one bump right in the middle, and then two kind of flattish areas. And so I'm going to put a stack here, I'm going to put a stack there. I'm going to fast forward through putting down this flatwing. I've probably got, I don't know, half a dozen lavender and maybe 7 to 10 whites that I'm going to put down there, just because the darker is always going to stand out more than the lighter color. So I'm going to put those down, and we'll get this deer hair on. Okay, so the flatwing's down. So before I add my flash, I'm going to put my first stack here. It's not going to be super flary, and again, with these super thick lead bodies back here, you kind of have to either choose to put a ton of bucktail to really kind of make that bait really full, or just choose to do it thin. And I'm going to choose just to do it a little bit thinner. My front stack is going to be pretty thick, but I really don't want this bait to run really big. I want it to be a smaller bait. This is a double willow, so I'm going to fish this a little bit faster, and I just don't want a big bulky body. So I'm just going to add my first little stack here, probably about halfway in between these two bumps. I'm just going to add that first one. I want to save some room up. I have that glue down. I put some glue down. My fingers are sticky. I want to put this first stack in the middle because I want some room for my flash. So I'm just going to get that kind of spun around as evenly as I can. But this will appear to be pretty thin, even though I've put quite a bit of hair onto this, even for me. But again, it does look thin because it's got so much ground to cover in terms of covering that whole shank. But that's alright. Again, I'd rather have this one be a little bit thin, because I usually fish willow blades a lot faster than I would like a Colorado blade, and so I know how I'm going to fish this, and so I'm just going to be weary of adding too much. So I've got that down, and then I'm going to put some flash down, and then I'm going to super glue all this together. This is just, again, this is just silver and light purple. And I'm not going to put a ton, because this is already a really bright bait. And I really don't need tons of flash. And I had someone, I can't remember who, sorry I can't remember who it was, ask about why, when I put my tinsel down like this, why do I cut this side? And the reason is, for most of these baits that I tied, they're not super long. And if I fold this back, it's going to go, I mean, this last piece of tinsel goes well past my feathers, and I don't want my tinsel to be the farthest thing back. If anything, I want them to ride really evenly. And so I'm always just reluctant just to fold them back. I would rather just take a little bit more time to trim it off and then just put them where I want and have them be at the length that I'm gonna, so I just don't have to take the time to trim them. I mean, either way, it's gonna take time, right? If you just fold them back, you can just trim them. It'll probably take the same amount of time as what I'm doing here, but you can just do, you can do it any way you want. This is just the way I've always kind of done it, and I just feel like I can get more of an even length with that cutting and then redistributing it. So I'm going to put some super glue on this just to cinch it all together, and then I'm going to work my way up. Alright, so this second stack, it's last, but it's only the second, is going to be, I'm just going to put it about as long as this first one, just because this is pretty thin, and so I'm not worried about some huge taper or anything like that. I just want a little more body on this at this halfway point, and so I'm going to put down this pretty nice clump of deer hair just about as far back as these go. So I'm going to end up trimming off quite a bit of this, which is okay, because I mean, I have one lavender tail and it's pretty high quality stuff, but really for how much lavender I use, I mean, trimming off an inch of it isn't killing me. So I'm going to get that on right about there. Maybe I'll work my way up a little. I'm going to get this hair pushed down, and there should be some flare in it. So before I get too much flare, I'm just going to spin it around all the way around my hook, or my spinner bait, however you want to think of it. And get that spun around. And this is a lot of hair, so I want to make sure and I get this evenly if I push down, I can get some of that flare out. Make sure these hairs just love to get all tangled. So you just make sure and separate them. There's way more flare in this purple than I thought there was going to be. I thought it was going to be a pretty dead tail, but it's turning out not to be, which is good. So I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to get a nice tight wrap right there. I just want to work my way up, just so when I trim all this hair off, most likely when, not if, I trim my thread, I have enough pressure on that hair where it's not going to all fall off. So I'm going to grab my trusty razor blade and get this cleaned up. Alright, so a lavender and white War Eagle double white Willow spinnerbait. This is just an absolutely wicked color. I love the all white spinnerbait. I love those little orange eyes. I almost did a white and orange just to match these eyes, but I ended up getting this flatwing saddle that was like a super cool light purple, and luckily I had a lavender tail that matched it almost perfectly, and so I thought I would tie some. I've got a bunch of other ones, other jigs and stuff I'm going to tie in this color combo. I don't know if I'll upload them all, but probably not, maybe just one or two of them, but I really like this color. It's just with a little bit of flash. It's super heavy. I'm going to fish this really, really fast in lily pads and stuff like that, or sporadic, submerged vegetation. And so I just really, really like this color. Like and subscribe, leave a comment below, visit the channel, comment on what you want to see, colors, jigs. If there isn't a jig you've seen yet, I would love to know it. Brands or colors or sizes or whatever, patterns. Just drop a comment below. Junior's Fishing Company. We'll see you on the next one.